Why This Film, the podcast where we reach back into your childhood, pluck out a movie, give it a rewatch, and have a chat about it. I'm Emily Slade, and welcome back.
Watched it so many times before, and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it, and now you show it to your friends, and they're like, What?
What am I watching?
Why this?
What is this?
Why this film?
And I'm joined today by Hannah. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, thank you for coming. And your chosen movie is 1998's Practical Magic. The IMDb breakdown. Two witch sisters raised by their eccentric aunts in a small town face closed-minded prejudice and a curse which threatens to prevent them ever finding lasting love. Why this film? What's your relationship?
I remember that my parents were going away one night and I was probably about 15 and my dad and I were in town and he said, right, we're going to pop to HMV and I'm going to pick you out two movies. You have to watch them and when I get home you have to tell me what you think about them. So he got me Practical Magic and Pitch Black, two very, very different films. And I fell in love with Practical Magic. Like he's a very movie buff kind of person, but I never thought Practical Magic would be the sort of movie he was like, you have to watch this.
Yeah.
It's a classic. Your mum and I love it. And honestly, ever since then, I will not stop raving about this movie. It's just like a perfect mix of like magic and love and like proper Charmed meets The Witches meets, I don't even know how to put my finger on it. It's just like a perfect movie for me. I love it.
That's so cool. What a cute little origin story. That's amazing. I knew about this movie. I'd never seen it. I'd seen it it was sort of amongst the resurrection when the 90s became big again. These last couple of years, and everyone was sort of like Practical Magic. But like not majorly. It was just sort of amongst others that had a much louder voice. I never had an inkling to watch it, which is strange because I grew up with this kind of stuff. You know, I was a big Buffy fan. I watched Charmed and you know, all of these sort of weird teenage fantasy movies with love and magic were like right up my street. So I don't know why I never actually sat down and watched Practical Magic. I did today, and I'm gonna cry talking about
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Movie was so good.
Yeah.
Like I was shocked at how much I loved it. I was crying at the end.
Oh yeah.
And I've just all of my notes are just like, where has this
been all my life?
All of my life. How did I miss it? It is so up my street. It is in my bedroom, under the covers, hugging me. Like it is everything that I was and am and aspire to be. I am genuinely baffled how it snuck past me all of these years and was just always there in the background, and I was like, Practical Magic, Practical Schmagic. Step aside Frozen in terms of like
absolutely.
Magic sister movies.
And, sisterhood,
Oh my God. Like, I was going to be so articulate. I had all of these like notes planned, and I was like, I really need to express how this movie made me feel, because I've not really had a reaction like this when when I watch the movies that people recommend to me on this podcast, I go in and I try and understand why they love it and see it from their childhood perspective and how I feel, and you know, apply my adult feelings to it as well. But I tend, because of that, to have a good time watching the movies that people pick for me, because I really do see the good in them, and I enjoy movies from your childhood. Like, that's why I run this podcast. Very rarely do I watch a movie and I'm like, oh my God, like I have to go and buy this now. I have to own this now. I have to rewatch it. I and I didn't expect it. It like hit me in the face. I was like, what? I was expecting to enjoy myself because I was like, oh, you know, maybe it'll just be like a good Charmed. Because I have to say, like, I didn't like Charmed because, I mean, I watched it because it was all we had. But I didn't like the sort of girly love aspect that took over. Whereas in Buffy, it was always more of a side plot. And it was more about the friendships and the they didn't really feel like sisters in Charmed. I don't know.
No,
don't come for me, Charmed people. This was what I always wanted Charmed to be.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. I had
Absolutely.
no idea what it was really about. So the plot, I mean, it drives through those first like 15 minutes.
Goodness.
You're like, oh my God.
Well, I paused it at like when the prologue, shall we say, stopped. And I was like, these are the best first 19 minutes of any movie ever. That's honestly, like, I felt about it. I was crying and I went, it's like the first bit of Up. Like when you have that little prologue-y bit and it tells you everything you need to know and it sets the whole movie up perfectly. And I was there weeping and I was just like, this is such a good film. I'm so glad it like held up as well to how I felt about it.
And it's so progressive.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like it is, I read an article afterwards that it was like, it's feminist, it's like, it's progressive. You've got these characters who like don't take shit. They are who they are.
Yeah.
They like Nicole Kidman's character is like liberated and in charge of her own pleasure and her body, and like it deals with like domestic abuse in a really like respectful and mature way. It like obviously the sisterhood aspect is like everything about it.
So strong.
And yet so much else happens as well. Like there's nothing, I'm sure, like, I thought I was going to be so cynical, and I was like, oh, well, it would be weird if she hooks up with someone at the end again because she's apparently just lost the man of her dreams, but even, it just all made sense, and they did it in such a way that I was just on board with absolutely everything. There was the bit where the police officer, like, drove the spirit away with his badge, and I was like, oh, here we go, the man's gonna save the day.
No,
like,
he
20
didn't.
minutes of the movie left, he goes after that, and it's all down to the sisters, which,
all
like, of
proper woman power. Yeah.
That ending, when they, like,
girl power.
I'm jumping all over the place, lads, because, like, I'm just obsessed with this movie now. Like, and you're like, they collect all of the women in the town, and the, like, moral of the story is that, like, we all have a bit of witch inside of us, and you can just untap it if you just have the confidence, and, like,
it's all of these women that have got all of these like negative thoughts towards each other, and they've never gotten on, and they're so different, but they all come together to save Jilly. And it's when they like grab each other's hands, and like the most cynical woman in the entire town is there for them anyway, and she has the excuse of, well, I've always wanted to see you inside your house, but she's there and she didn't have to be, and they all come together, and it's like, oh my God, this was like probably my first glimpse at the age of 15 into proper girl power. Women supporting women, no matter how different you are, you have got each other's backs. Which is partly like why I was so surprised that my dad showed it to me, and my mum was like, oh my God, yeah, that is a great film. And yeah, it's like when they jump off the roof at the end, like proper tears. And like I can't explain how much of a perfect movie it is. And you don't have to be a girl or a woman to find this the most amazing movie, because just all of it, like when they all come together at the end, I'm just like, yeah, girl power. I love being a woman. Yeah.
Sisterhood.
So much sisterhood.
Honestly, like, genuinely, if you have not seen Practical Magic, go and watch it. Yeah. Like, I was honestly blown away with how I felt, how it made me feel, what the story was, what it did. They didn't play up little bits too much. It was funny, it was clever. Yeah. I mean, mysterious. I forget how much I love Sandra Bullock. Like, I genuinely forget. And then every time I'm watching her on screen, I'm just like, she's electric. She was like born to be on camera.
My God.
And Nicole Kidman is in her like floozy phase, like pre Moulin Rouge, and like it's just, like she's brilliant.
If you like, some people say that they're not a big fan of either of them, but if you've ever watched a movie and you're like, are they that good? Watch Practical Magic, because like that scene where Sally, Sandra Bullock's character, is running down the high street in denim jeans and wellies. From the age of 15, I thought that was the height of cool.
Yes.
Like, one of the reasons I'm ginger is because of Nicole Kidman. And that bit where they're just lying in bed together and Sally's husband has just died and they're just looking at each other, and Sandra Bullock just goes, I was so happy, and she breaks, and like I just floods of tears.
Honestly,
it's just such an amazing performance.
The emotions
like, oh.
and the acting that these women
Yeah.
do, like, and I think it's why the film is so good as it is as well, because the actors in it are so incredible.
Yeah.
And this could have been such a mediocre movie if they'd cast the wrong people or just bad people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's the same reason that, like, because people always push aside chick flicks and they always push aside like fantasy movies, like weird modern fantasy movies. There's a whole genre of them, and they are all my favourite films.
Oh my god, yes.
And
I'm
this
so
joins
there.
it. And like Legally Blonde wouldn't be as good as it was if it didn't have like Academy Award winning Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
main role.
Yeah.
And these women are also Academy Award nominated, if not winners. And it shows.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I honestly, it's one of those movies where I couldn't imagine any single character being played by anyone else. Like, even the little girls, the aunts, they're so perfect.
I mean, the eldest little girl is Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Everyone in this movie is a gem. Like, absolutely everyone. And it's all about the women. Like, there's like two... It passes the Bechdel test with flying
so much, yes.
colours.
Yeah.
And that was such a joy as well. Like, a lot of the movies that I end up watching do tend to be these movies from the 80s and the 90s. And especially movies in the 80s, women really were just love interests and objects.
It's that theory where, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, probably because you're a movie lady, where if you can think the lead woman, if you could replace her with a lamp and the movie would be exactly the same and nothing would change, then it's a really, really poorly written woman.
Yeah.
And that, like, even nowadays, Dave and I, my boyfriend, were watching the modern Tarzan movie. Oh my god, I just sat there partway through. I went, you could replace her with a lamp, and honestly it would be exactly the same. Literally. But this, like, I hate the phrase usually way ahead of its time, but this was so way ahead of its time.
It feels like it was made this year.
It could have been easily.
It feels like someone's tried to make a movie that ticked boxes that they're trying to talk about now in this post-Me Too movie world, but they weren't. They were just making a fucking great movie with some brilliant women in it doing. And it's funny that we always almost have to rely on witchcraft to get a movie
about women. Strong, powerful.
Literally. But this is the thing. It wasn't even just that the witches were great people. Like, everyone in the town were great people. Everybody got over their prejudices. Everybody came together, and that's what's fun as well. Even the village people, the like townsfolk, we're always focusing on like the other mums and the women. Like, I can probably there's the cop, the original husband, the shit boyfriend,
the dad in like the first 2 minutes of the film,
and that man that comes in and needs to put the cream on his like dick.
Oh my god, that's so fucking funny.
Like, that's one hand.
Pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. And one of them has like 30-second screen time. Yeah,
exactly. It's one of those films that I was watching it and I was slightly nervous because it had meant the world to me when I was about 15 years old. And sort of when you're that age and you're kind of discovering who you are, and like, you know, you're warring with women at school because you're all girls and you think everything is a competition. Exactly. And if your hair's slightly frizzier than that person's, then obviously they're better than you and all this. And we weren't accepting how you can be different but still come together and you could support each other. And I remember that I watched this film, and after I watched it, I called my best friend and I was like, you have to watch this. I'm bringing it in on Monday. You're watching this film. And I think it kind of like changed almost my perspective at school. Like those 5 girls, you know, that everybody has at school, and they're pristine and pretty, but they talk down to people that aren't as pristine and pretty as them. I started kind of like understanding where they were coming from more, but also supporting them more, because I sort of thought at the end of the day, if I really needed a group of women, heck yes, I would call my village, I would call my town people, and they would still come. Like, even when you're warring against each other, and, you know, in the movie when Kelly, the oldest girl, casts chickenpox on one of the boys in the village, his mum still comes to help. And they're not like, oh, well, we never actually believed you were witches, we're not coming to help you, whatever, you're just weird. They turn up at the door, they bring their brooms, they don't know what's going on, they feel really weird, but they still turn up. So I sort of, it kind of changed my perspective just to other women.
That's incredible. Like, it's like obligatory viewing for teenagers, I think.
Oh my god, yes.
Because it's so true. Like, I'm finding out the more I do this podcast how the movies I watched affected me as a child, and it's not always positive. And if I had something like a lot of the movies that I loved would have that strong female character, but there would always just be one of them. And she would be perfect. And that gives you this sense that you need to go forward and represent your entire gender with who you are, and be the perfect woman. And of course, the perfect woman is always written by men. And it's just this sick, twisted cycle that I'm sure I'm not alone in following. And if I'd seen something like Practical Magic back then, I think that's wonderful that it affected you in the way it did, and I think it probably affected many more people in kind that same way.
Made me start thinking that almost like women should be each other's tribe. Like, I honestly believe that the people that I surround myself with, even if I'm not that close to someone, I don't know if it's just this movie that's made me think like this, but if somebody called me and they needed me, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'm a member of your tribe. You not be that close, but I can support you, I can be there, because of just seeing these warring women come together to save Jilly and a witch, like, honestly made me start thinking differently about women in general. You don't have to be at war with another woman because they're different.
Literally.
Really, like, you're not, like you said, with these women that would lead these movies, they were on their own, they were pristine, and they had every single character trait that they needed to get through the movie. Whereas in this, there are loads of different women, they have different character traits, and they only succeed by coming together, combining the amazing things that make them amazing individuals and being even stronger. And it's just such a, oh my god, we are not an island moment. Like, so much so that just, I can't even really articulate how much this movie meant to me as a child and how much it means now.
Honestly, like having just gone through it, like, I completely get it. And that's the thing, there was no obligation for this movie to do that. This movie so easily could have taken the easy way out, and it could have just had Nicole Kidman be possessed and the aunts come back and save them. And it easily could have done that. But it chose to go the extra step and have the entire town come together and support the women and bring them together in the end, as well as breaking the curse. Like, it could have been an isolated incident of just that family breaking the curse and saving Jilly, but they chose to expand it and they chose to include everyone. And it's such a little throwaway line, but it sums up the whole, like, there's so many little throwaway lines that are just brilliant in this movie that you can really take as lessons. And it's where Margot Martindale, who I'd never seen in a movie before, I just know her from BoJack Horseman, so I was like, wait!
Oh my god!
You are real! And she's getting super excited, and one of the aunts leaves over, and it's just like, there's a little bit of witch in all of us. And you're just like, yes!
Oh my god, yes!
Great. And then something Stockard Channing, who is in this movie,
I know,
crushing it. Says something brilliant. I want to make sure I get it right. Here we go. So Sandra Bullock's like, I just want a normal life. And she says, "My darling girl, when are you going to realise that being normal is not necessarily a virtue? It rather denotes a lack of courage."
Yes. Like, and that is still within the first 20 minutes of the movie, that all of these like zinger one-liners are coming out, and I'm already like, even watching it on Friday, I was already starting to be like, oh my gosh, yes, being weird and being a woman are properly cool things to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so much so. And then, of course, they go even further where Sandra Bullock is like, well, it's what I want. I want to be normal. So they, like, cast a spell and bring a man for her, and they give her what she wants, even though
she
it goes
wanted that
their
normal
philosophy.
life. Yeah, exactly.
And, like, it's just women supporting women from the first minute of this. In fact, the worst woman in this movie is probably the original witch, who's like, I'm sad, and therefore all of my family members are going to be sad.
Yes.
And like, and that's it. And she's in the like 1700s, so like you can forgive people of the past making dumb decisions and lashing out and being, I don't know, sexist, whereas here in the modern day we're progressive and we're like, I mean, I thought it was, but I honestly didn't see half of it coming. It literally, the first time you see them grown up, Nicole Kidman's like, right, I'm off, I'm in love and I'm off, and I'm like, what? Okay, cool.
Good for you.
Straight in.
Off
like,
you go, girl. Yeah.
I thought we were going to be plodding about in the house, and like, this is the thing, this movie just twists and turns where I didn't expect it to at all. Like, I had a very simplistic, vague idea of what practical magic was going to be, and it was so much better than anything I could have imagined, because you just think, oh, it's a teenage witch movie with these bankable 90s stars, and it's about witches in love, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna be about men, is what it's gonna be.
Exactly.
About.
It's all about men. But
yeah,
no.
It's not at all.
It's honestly everything I wish Charmed had been.
Yeah, honestly.
Because, like, I loved it when I was a kid, and then I rewatched it just like I did with Practical Magic, and I sort of got to like season 5 or whatever it was, and I was just like, oh, for God's sake, why does everything have to revolve around, you know, men and love, and you're more like mates than sisters, and why are you arguing all the time, and you've never got each other's backs, for God's sake? And then, you know, Practical Magic comes along, and it is honestly everything that I wish that, like, I almost want them to have more time. Yes.
I've watched, I can't remember who did it, a brilliant woman on YouTube did a whole breakdown. She made herself rewatch Charmed, so I didn't have to. And she broke it down, and especially when you get to sort of season 5, and Alyssa Milano and Piper, Holly Marie Combs, start being producers as well, so all of the storylines involve around them, and as you say, it's all just about like, oh, I need to get a man, and it doesn't help that like one of the actresses drop out after like season 2, and they're replaced with like a weird half sister. So already you've got a relationship that no one bothers to build there.
No, and they never do for the rest of the seasons or any of it. It's riddled with holes.
Awful. Like, it genuinely is awful. And like, I used to love Buffy, and my friend really loved Charmed, and I found it so difficult to watch Charmed. I'll stick it on now in the background, but like, it's not like Buffy is art. Charmed is just TV.
I have every single season of Buffy on DVD, and I will never get rid of them. Charmed, I bought them all, watched them, and went, well, I never need to watch that again, and got rid of it. Literally,
it's so disappointing. And like, sorry if you really like Charmed, but like, fight me. Like, come on.
Honestly, come for me. Yeah.
As to why it's good, because it is just about the men, and my favourite character in Charmed used to be Phoebe, who is of course the perfect one.
Yes.
Like, she's hot, she's got kung fu, she can also do magic,
she can see
smart,
the future,
she's like love guru, she like has the dates with the devil people, like she was like the perfect woman, and like she obviously looks like Alyssa Milano, and she's got legs for days, and abs you can like break a fucking rock open on, and no, like,
for me, almost like the best characters in TV and film are the ones with flaws.
Exactly.
Because
the best characters ever.
Yes.
Like, you have to give a character flaws, otherwise they're not a character.
No.
They're just a lampshade, as you said.
Exactly. And in Practical Magic, when the sisters are so flawed, but they're so there for each other. Like when Jilly comes back and she's being selfish, but then, you know, Sally as well has got all of these foibles and she won't let the girls learn magic because she's afraid, but they learn to fight with each other to overcome these barriers, and it makes it so much more.
It's such a
compelling.
realistic sister relationship as well. Like they are sisters and they are human people that you see, and they so easily again could have gone cheap on it and just been like, oh, they're witches and they're different, let's make them weird and whatever. But they don't, and like they really are. They barely do any witchcraft, to be honest. Like, and
no,
that's so wonderful, because I thought they were going to make such a thing about them being witches, but they don't. They're just like, they're witches. So like when they want to, they can do some magic.
Exactly. There's a book, and they can do magic, but really it's more, you know, herbs for this, that, and the other, and being, you know, really one with the earth and one with each other. But it's not all, now I'm going to cast a spell and la la la.
We don't need to go into the like theory and the mythos behind the witchcraft of it all.
Just there.
It's just there, and I think that's so lovely. It's just someone wrote a story and they were like, and they are witches so they can do magic. Anyway, we're gonna do a story now.
Exactly.
And like that's what's so good, because if you consumed it all with like how things worked and how they were to do different things, you start finding like inaccuracies and they were people so much more than the Charmed sisters ever will be. And it's I'm sorry to keep bringing up Charmed, but the 90s had a lot of witch stuff happening. I never watched The Craft. I don't know if you did.
No, I didn't. It was one of those recommended viewing after I watched Practical Magic.
If you like Practical Magic,
you may want to see this.
Yeah, I never saw it. I know it's got the girl from Scream in it. That's literally the extent of my knowledge of Craft, and that the song that they used in The Craft then became the Charmed theme song.
Oh, right, yeah, okay. I mean, that was the best part of Charmed.
Yeah, literally.
Was that, and the cat,
That and Cole.
Oh, yeah.
He was in nothing else except that Fantastic Four movie that came out in like 2000.
And Nip Tuck. He was in Nip Tuck.
Never watched Nip Tuck.
I followed his career extensively, obviously.
It's the only good thing about Charmed. So
honestly, yes.
What do you want us to do? But
yeah, the 90s were huge for these, like, witchcraft, Wicca.
Vampires came back in the 2000s.
Yes.
Witches owned the 90s.
And zombies are now. Yeah. Literally, yeah. And I must say, I think Practical Magic does it the best.
Oh, yeah. Like, this is the thing. I can't say for sure because I haven't seen a lot, but it uses what you get given with the idea of womanhood and witchcraft. To the best of its ability. Like, it really does. It
it's almost like I can't express how incredible it is, because there are so many things. Like, the first 20 minutes, like I said, might very well be the best 20 minutes of a movie ever. But then, you know, you've got the rest of the film, and there's so much in it that it's really hard to articulate to people that haven't seen it, just how utterly incredible it is for so many reasons.
So good. It's so well paced. It's so well structured. And I kept getting taken aback, but it was just that they were just like, come on. I'm so used now to like I didn't watch it because I refused to watch bad things, but my parents watched The New Lady and the Tramp on Disney Plus.
Oh, God.
And like, I came down and I was like, is this still on? Like, I'm not even surprised, because movies now are just padded out. This movie is 1 hour and 44 minutes, and they use every minute of that to their ability. Things like, this movie got me. Like, I was so invested. I think the reason we can't articulate it is because you have to watch it. It's like an experience. And I'm not saying that it's particularly good at cinematography or that like, oh, it does this very well. It's just a good fucking movie, and you are engaged and you are moving along with the plot as well as it is moving you along. It's done so good. And, God, what was I going to say? It's not padded out whatsoever. No. And
there's nothing unnecessary. Yeah. honestly, like, not a single second of it is unnecessary. Usually when I watch movies nowadays, probably about an hour in, I'll pick up my phone and I'll check Facebook and I'll check this, that and the other, and then I'll look up and be like, oh, well, who cares? This, I'm so invested. It's one of those films that it's not too short, but it's not too long.
Yes.
It's perfectly paced and perfectly timed. And I think I picked up my phone at the end of it and I was like, oh, somebody tried to call me. I didn't even notice, because so invested and so like attached to it that you don't want to look away.
Yeah.
Don't feel the need to go, oh God, this is dragging along. I'm going to go get, something else to do.
Same. Like, I sat down to watch it and I had stuff around me and I was like, just in case it's like really difficult to get through, I'll like work on this while I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And I was like sat with my arms crossed, hunched up into the corner of the settee, just completely focused on this movie. Like, I couldn't do anything else because I wanted to watch it. It got me. That's what I was going to say. It completely duped me. Like, I love a plot and payoff. Like, it's like my favorite movie. And I didn't even see it coming. The whole, like, they have like a mother's round robin, I guess you'd call it, where they have
the call ringing tree or whatever it is. Yeah.
Where they put a mum at the top and then two mums. That mum rings the next mum and that ring. And it's just, if the snow comes and you've got to warn the whatever. They had a reason for it. And there's a whole scene about it. And then I forgot about it. Because I was like, whatever. It was probably just to be like, Nicole Kidman's back in town and also they're witches. But then that's what she uses to call the coven to her house. And I was like, oh my God, they're using the thing that they plotted in the movie earlier. Yeah. And I usually I'm so cynical and I'm sat there and I'm like, oh, well, that's going to come in handy later. Because that's how
but
movies
they
work.
didn't push it or be like, hey, we're going to bring this back later. Wink, wink. Make sure you remember this. Don't you forget. And it's so many movies do that. Yeah. They do. They're like, oh, here's just something we're going to drop in
and the camera here for a bit.
Just make sure,
zoom.
Make sure you remember this, and we'll say something about this one thing that might very well make sure that you remember it. But they just drop in the tree, the calling phone tree. That was it. Yeah. They drop it in, and then it comes back later. And it's like, oh my God!
It's genuinely brilliant. And there's no bullshit either. She doesn't ring them up and be like, can you come to my house under false pretenses? She's just like, I'm a witch and my sister's possessed and I need you. And they all come. And that was
everything you ever heard. It's true.
There's no like bullshit. There's no like trying to dupe anyone. And that was so enjoyable. That was so good. And and the other one that they did was Kylie, Evan Rachel Wood hexes the boy with chickenpox. Yeah. And then just 10 minutes later, the boy's being interviewed for something completely different. And he has chickenpox. Like, it's not referred to. He just has chickenpox. And it's like, oh, brilliant. So that establishes that the younger witches are witches and they have magic. And
sometimes what I hate about movies is that you'll have moments like, admitting, oh, by the way, I'm a witch, and nobody will believe you for like 20 minutes of the movie. And they go through this convoluted way of getting everyone to believe them, and they'll do something like, I'm now going to cast a spell just so you believe me. But because from like literally the first 5 minutes of the film where the family member gets hung but actually she's a witch so she escapes, from there through to when Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock are kids, and they're getting rocks thrown at them and they're chanting, you're a witch. So it goes from the very beginning of the movie up until the phone tree of, it's just an accepted fact in that village that that's a house of witches. That's just an accepted fact. So when they call up and go, by the way, you know how you all think I'm a witch? I am. We need your help. And they just turn up.
They just do it.
And there's no, we don't really believe you. We're going to spend 20 minutes for no reason.
And like the prejudice comes from the fact that everybody does genuinely believe that they're witches and they have an idea of what a witch is, and that's why they hate them. It's not that they're like, they're not spat on in the street. They're not like pitchforked out of town. People just see them in the street and they're like, boo, or whatever.
Or give them a wide berth.
Yeah, exactly. There's a brilliant line where one of the mums is talking to the police officer and she's like, we're not saying that they killed him, they just might have shook his hand and then he died, like that's all we're saying.
It's just honestly like, I think when I watched it on Friday, because obviously I've grown up now, I think the first time I watched it was like 12 years ago. But like, it almost means more to me now.
Yeah.
Like the first 20 minutes, like when Sandra Bullock's husband dies, I was like, my heart was in my throat because all I could think was, I'm in love. And like, if this ever happened and I could hear this beetle and I knew for a fact this meant that the man that I love is going to die, I was almost tearing my hair out with Sandra Bullock as she was ripping up the floors trying to find this Death Watch beetle. And then you get that moment when you're like, oh my God, the bikes are coming, they're going to kill him. And then they whiz past and he's okay. And you're like, oh my goodness, oh, okay. Boof, he gets hit by a truck.
Yeah.
It's like, you get that, utter fear and then that relief, and then comes the smash.
It's so
and
cleverly done.
Oh, honestly,
so cleverly paced. Like,
connect to it.
Yeah, this is the thing. When you grow up and you have more life experience, and these movies offer you these things that you don't fully get when you're like a kid, it just adds a whole other layer to it. And like this movie is just full of layers. The way that it's just ever so, like how they're like, he's like, oh, I'm looking for your ex-boyfriend. Have you seen him? And you're like, oh no, they're in trouble because they know that he's dead. It's like, no, we want to find him because we want to put him away because he killed his last girlfriend. And you're like, fuck. Not fuck, yeah, because like domestic abuse and murder is a real thing. Which, like, kudos to this film for like dragging that up and being like, look, women die at the hands of men. Yeah. More than they ever should. Like, so much so. And I'm really clumsily going through this topic, but like this movie does it so well. They're just like, we want to find him because he's wanted for murder, basically. And you know that he would have killed Nicole Kidman if Sandra Bullock hadn't killed him.
When they were in the car and he was heating up his ring to burn her, and then he had his hands around her throat and he was trying to kill her, to strangle her. And then when the cop turns up, he's like, we want to talk to him because we found a woman strangled to death with a skull branded into her. And it's like, oh, that's actually what he was trying to do to Nicole Kidman. So she was not the first.
God knows how many women he's done before.
Exactly.
And that's what's so wonderful. It wasn't like a manhunt for Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman because they killed him. It was a manhunt for him because he's a terrible fucking human being and he was going to be locked up. That was so refreshing because it's so easy. Could have been like, what are these tricksy women done to our good strong man?
Damn
but it's
women.
Like, fuck this guy. Where is he? We need him because we need to like electrocute him because it's America. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
and the 90s.
And the 90s.
It's when the cop knows that they have done something wrong, but still every fibre of his being doesn't want to have to get them in trouble. And then at the end, when Sandra gets this letter from him and the ring falls out, and it's like, just so you know, we know that he's dead because there was a fire and there was a body and here's a ring. So you know that obviously he's covered up for them.
Yeah.
And it's because, just because that he's in love with Sandra Bullock, so he's covered up a murder. He's done it because this guy killed women. Yeah. He beat the crap out of Nicole Kidman. He killed women. He was abusive, and the cop was not going to make these women go to jail for defending themselves. Yeah. From a piece of shit.
Yeah, and for ridding the world of the piece of shit.
Of the piece of shit, exactly.
Everything had so many layers. I thought it was like, I burst into tears when... I'm going to cry again. Honestly, it's so good. When Sandra Bullock is like, you're only here because I summoned you. When I was younger, I made a spell for a person that wouldn't exist. But it turns out that you do. Yeah. And it was just so gorgeous because it's like, despite whatever you think, there is someone out there for you that you want, that's perfect for you. And God, it was so beautiful. Like, and just like the little visuals that they put with it, where she was blowing the spell with the rose petals, and the rose petals were falling on him when he was a child, and Because he did exist, and
It was the bit like I literally just after that where they were trying to fight it, because how on earth could they both be so completely in love with each other when they've literally just met? And she turns to him and she says, if you stay, I won't know, you won't know if it's because I don't want to go to prison, and I won't know if it's because you're under a spell. And they look at each other and they're like, part of them goes, I don't give a shit because I love you, and part of them goes, well, yeah, I know that's true.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
Honestly, the connection between them is so utterly irrevocable that it almost doesn't matter, because even if, you know, the spell never existed, yes, he might not have turned up in that village because, you know, he felt drawn to her, but that connection and their love would probably still be there.
It's still a real thing that's happening in the world that they live in. Like,
exactly.
Like, this movie had layers that I don't think it's possibly given credit for. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the general consensus of this movie was. Like, as far as I was aware, it had very mediocre reviews. It's like a 6 on IMDb.
I think it fell through the cracks somehow. Like, you know how another film that my dad made me watch, The Princess Bride, that has got a cult movie following.
Huge, yeah.
It's massive. But somehow practical magic fell through the gaps, and I feel like this should have a cult following.
It
really should. Like, I am actually tempted to start a fan group or a page or a website going, bring practical magic the credit it deserves.
Literally, and not with like a fucking shit sequel. Like,
no,
that bullshit.
Don't remake it because it is perfect.
Remake it because you won't get it right.
No, because it's honestly a miracle they got it so right back then.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane how perfectly right they got it.
Yeah.
And I just, like, with the love and the respect that they all have for each other, even when they hate each other, there's still that like underlying, almost the women in the town, they are terrified of them, but they've got this respect. And when that little boy gets cast with chicken pox, and it's by the little girl, and she's like, I hope you get chicken pox, the reaction is, they all know that he could actually get chickenpox just because she wishes it. Like, there's a respect for them.
Yeah, there's a real fear. There's not, they don't laugh her out of town. They're
like,
oh shit, now my
kid's gonna get chickenpox. It's like, I honestly cannot look at this movie and find a single thing wrong with it.
Honestly, neither could I, and that's like my hobby. Like, I am so cynical usually, and especially with like movies from the past that I haven't watched yet. It's so easy to put modern day values on top of them and be like, nee, that's racist or whatever.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it for this movie. It just, and maybe there is stuff that I missed, but I didn't care because I was just so having such a great time. And like, I mean, we've not even gone into the like 90s fashion, as you said, with the like skirt and the boots running down the
denim shorts everywhere.
Like, all of the like spaghetti strap dresses.
Oh my god, it was all about spaghetti straps.
Oh man,
like sunglasses.
Oh yeah, all of the different like frameless sunglasses that Nicole Kidman wears. Like, all we were missing was a Baker Boy hat. Like, it honestly, like, I wrote a note here that says it gave me a sense of nostalgia despite never seeing it before. Like, it honestly did. And like, it's because I love this kind of movie, as I said, and I'm shocked that I've not seen it before. Like, I did, like Van Helsing, Queen of the Damned.
Yes.
All of those sort of like I really enjoyed Beautiful Creatures that came out in like 2013.
I really liked that. Yeah.
It's shit, but I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
which
almost
makes it not shit. Like,
it's honestly almost like practical magic deserves to be the queen of these movies.
Yes.
There are a load of them, but it's like, I was watching it and I just thought, I've seen this movie a load of times, but I've not seen it in years. But it almost feels like a sense of coming home. It's comfortable, even though I was crying my eyes out.
I've never even seen it.
No, it felt like honestly coming back to somewhere that I had almost lost.
Yes.
And yeah, like coming home and like a hot chocolate in bed and all of this kind of thing.
Literally.
Even though I was tearing my hair out, crying my eyes out, connecting to Sandra Bullock in a way that I hadn't when I was younger. And it just is the queen of these kind of movies where you've got your supernatural element, but also that's kind of the back seat because it's just living a life out there. Yes, there's supernatural elements and things, but that's almost kind of not the most important part about it.
No, it's a good story about people, which like every good story and every good movie is about. And like they don't let the gimmick of magic and them being witches get in the way of telling a good story. Like
a fucking great story. Yeah,
look, it's based on a novel by a woman, like of course it is.
Oh, I did not know it was based on a novel. I'm going to go and read that immediately.
Who is this? And yeah, I was like, it's got like, I will bet money on the fact that it's written by a woman.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The novel was written by Alice Hoffman and the screenplay was written by Robin Swicord, who is a woman.
Yeah,
like
that's, you can almost sense it and feel it and just live in it.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like, I felt like I was living in this movie because the outside world did not exist. Like,
honestly, I know exactly what you mean. I was going through the exact same experience. That's why I was so shocked with how much it consumed me. Like, and it really did. I was just, you're absolutely right. Like, it was so comforting to watch it, and it was so enjoyable to watch it, and it was cozy, and like I'd never even seen it before. It was brand new to me, but I felt it's like a Proust moment where you like eat a biscuit and you're reminded of something. Like
or you get a scent of something and it reminds you of a flash from your childhood.
Literally, and like,
that's how it feels. Yeah,
it's insane how this movie made me feel. Like, absolutely insane.
I'm almost sort of like, it has no right to make me feel like this. But I'm so glad that it does.
Yeah.
Like from the second that it starts and you've got, this woman about to be hanged, surrounded by all these men. And I think it's Stockard Channing doing the voiceover. And she's like, well, she was bound to be hanged, mainly because, all of the men she was sleeping with, and they all had wives on the hanging committee. And I remember I just burst out laughing.
Literally.
Because it's funny, but it's heartbreaking, but it's warming, but it's like
so
proper
witty. Like,
girl power, and
so witty. It's just so good.
Watching it, I think I probably had every single emotion I've ever felt in my entire life in an hour and 44 minutes, but not in an emotional roller coaster kind of way, in a sort of, this is a natural flow to things, and I'm going to laugh in the first 5 minutes, bawl my eyes out in the first 20, laugh again, root for women like I've never rooted for women before, and just be like, every other person I ever meet in my life, women or man, I've got your back, I'm rooting for you. Just kind of like, I finished the movie and I just sat there for a while watching the credits just going, this is such a fucking good movie.
Literally. I did the exact same thing. I let the credits roll and I was just like,
I need a minute.
I've been on a journey.
Yes, I've been on a spiritual, emotional journey, and I watched it on my own. And my boyfriend came downstairs. Dave came downstairs, and he was like, he'd been working in the office, and he just went, are you okay? And I was like, you never understand, because I've been on this journey and I was alone. And he was like, well, okay. I was like, you don't know. You were there.
You don't
One of those
understand.
Proper, like when how when you finish a book, like I finished Me Before You on a train, which was the worst mistake I've ever made in my life. And I finished the last page and I closed it and I looked around at all of these people and I just remember thinking, I'm surrounded by people bawling my eyes out and not a single person has been on this journey with me. So how on earth could I ever describe to them what I'm currently feeling? And it's like that with practical magic. And it must sound like the most crazy thing in the world to be that in love with a movie from the 90s with two like women who were huge in the 90s. But it was, I finished it and I just went, I have actually been on a journey. And
Genuinely.
Unless you've been on that journey.
You don't get it. Like,
no.
I didn't get it. You think Practical Magic, you're like, oh, the, like, witch one with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman from, like, the late 90s.
Yeah.
Like, go and watch it. I had no
beg
idea
you.
what I was in for.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely... like, it's a little bit life-changing. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be different going forward from, like, having watched it now.
100%.
Like, and, like, it's a fucking stupid witch movie from the 90s with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Like, what is this doing? Like, how? What? Go and see it if you haven't. And if you have and you don't agree, fucking email me, because I need to know what you're thinking and why.
Come to me, because I'm starting a fan club. Honestly, as chairman of the Practical Magic fan club, I will come at you. Like, I am very, very lucky that my dad is one of my best mates. Like, we started a DJ company together. We go out and we DJ and we do all this kind of thing. But one of the probably the biggest things I will ever be grateful to him for was taking me into HMV when I was 15 years old and picking out 2 movies I'd never even heard of. And he just went, right, Pitch Black, because I know you love horror movies and this will change whatever you think of them, and Practical Magic, because women are bloody awesome. And he put it into my hands. And I was just like, I don't know how my dad, like, he even exists. He's got better fashion sense than I ever will. And his taste in movies is insane. And I will forever be grateful that he put it into my hands and he was like, I will ask for a report about how you felt about both of them when I get home in the morning. And if you haven't watched them, I will know. Yeah. And I remember, like, the reason that I said Practical Magic to you was I was on Instagram and I think you'd just done The Witches. And in my head, I went, oh my God, Practical bloody Magic. She's just done The Witches. I'll just, like, type a note underneath of, if you ever want to do this movie. And then I feel like fate brought us together so that we got to watch it. Like, you for the first time, me, I kind of felt for the first time. Yeah. Because every time that you almost go through, like, a milestone in your life, I feel like you should watch Practical Magic, because it's probably got something in there that will speak to that milestone.
I honestly want to go back and rewatch it, like, right now. Like, I haven't felt that about a movie in years. And I cannot express this movie is so good. Like, it's so good.
It's like, whenever Dave and I, we go and watch a movie at the cinema, afterwards he'll always go, so out of 5, what would you give that? This is like a 10-star movie.
Oh yeah.
It's
not got anything
perfection.
wrong with it.
It can speak to, I think, everybody.
Honestly,
no matter.
It's for everybody. It's like, important. It better be on that fucking list that they have, where it's like, this movie's going to be preserved for historical importance.
If it's not, I'll start a petition.
Yeah, like,
honestly.
Put it on there. It's so good. Oh man.
It is, yeah, exactly. Like, even talking about it, I'm like, I can't go through beginning to end, because then I'll be like, oh, and this,
everything links so
oh my God.
neatly into everything else. Yeah. And it's just, it's just great.
It may very well be a perfect movie. Oh, you are so welcome. I'm so glad to finally get to talk to another woman about the glory of it.
Literally, I will now put this out with, like, disclaimers of, like, you fucking watch this movie right now. And
you better fucking do, or I will find you.
Yeah. Honestly, it's so good. Do you have anything that you want to plug? I know that quarantine has sucked.
It has. Well, we were doing a play with our theatre company, but we thought, as you know, we've got a load of actors in isolation. So our theatre company, Gamma Theatre, we've started an actors in isolation kind of thing. So we've done a load of speeches by political people. We've done Donald Trump speeches. We did Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, and he did run for president at one point, so that counts as a political speech. So yeah, we're always looking for more suggestions of speeches to do. My boyfriend, very adorably came to me yesterday, and he just went, so we could do another speech next week, or we could preserve it for May the 4th. And I went, you want to do a Star Wars one, don't you? He went, yeah, no, I totally want to do a Star Wars speech. So that's definitely, we've got going next.
Nice.
But yeah, if you look for Gamma Ray Theatre on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you'll find one of our many ridiculous actor in isolation videos. And they're just, about keeping us all connected, even through Zoom and Facebook Messenger and all that kind of thing. Because, we all need to just stay almost a little bit light about everything as much as possible.
Yeah, I've been much more social than I usually am since going into lockdown.
100%. Like, I've spoken to my dad this week like 4 or 5 times, and usually we have this thing of we'll message every so often, or he'll call me once a month for about an hour and we'll catch up about life. But yeah, we've spoken more this week probably than we have done in the last couple of months, just because
I think it's because like I can wear my slippers, so I'll come. Whereas,
I
must. If you make me go out somewhere, I can't. So I'm like, ooh.
I must admit that coming to see your lovely face is probably the first time this week that I've worn both makeup and a bra.
Same.
So exactly.
And I nearly went there, but I'm in jogging bottoms. I was like, I'll put a proper t-shirt on, but like.
I've literally just done that thing where I've put my leggings on with the most holes that they have, and some sort of dress. Basically me making an effort is currently putting on a bra. So
literally. So yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It has been life-changing.
Oh, yeah, honestly, it is a life-changing movie.
It really, really is. And we'll see you next time on Why This Film. Bye! Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy Why This Film, why not head to iTunes and leave us a review? And you can now support Why This Film on Patreon from as little as £1 a month. Just head to patreon.com/Why This Film Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast, on Instagram at Why This Film Podcast, and on Twitter at Why This Film Pod. If you'd like to come on the show and talk about your favourite childhood movie, email into us at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com.